Hi guys, I am in Waco, Texas today, so I am not at home, but I brought my book with me to my hotel room and I am going to read chapter 2 of The Further Adventures of Hank the Cowdog. So today, chapter 2 is called Egged On by Pete. In the security business, you learn to live your life a day at a time because you never know if you'll make it past the next monster. Any one of them is liable to be your last. A lot of dogs can't handle that kind of pressure, but there's others of us that we can kind of thrive on danger. When you're in that category, you learn to savor the precious moments. I mean the little things that most dogs take for granted, like a roll in the sewer after a big battle. There's nothing quite like it, believe me. You come in hot and bloody and torn up and worn out, proud of yourself on the one hand, but just nearly exhausted on the other. And you walk up to the pool of lovely green sewer water, and well, it's hard to describe that wonderfulness of it. The first plunge is probably your best when you step in and plop down and feel that water moving around your body. Then you roll around and kick up your legs in the air and let your nose feast the deep, manly aroma. Your poodles and your chihuahuas and your other variety of house dogs never know the savage delight of good ranch bathing. If they ever found that what they were missing, they'd never be the same again. There's just something about it that makes a dog proud to be a dog. Well, I climbed out of the sewer and I shook myself and sat down in the warm sunshine. Drover was still standing in water up to his knees. I noticed that he hadn't rolled around in it. He never does. He just wades in and stands there looking stiff and very uncomfortable. How do you expect to get clean if you don't get yourself wet, Drover? He wrinkled up his nose. I don't like to get wet. This water has special power, son. It revives the spirit. He kind of dipped down and got his brisket wet and scampered out onto the dry land. There, I feel much better now. I just shook my head. Sometimes Drover acts more like a cat than a cow dog. Makes me wonder, well, never mind. We sunned ourselves for a few minutes and then headed on down to the gas tank. I had a gunny sack bed down there with my name on it, and I was all set to pour myself into it. I was fluffing it up again and getting it arranged, just right when I heard the back door slam up at the house. I perked my ears and I listened. When the back door slams at that hour of the morning, it only means one thing, that Sally Mae has busted the yolk on Loper's breakfast egg. He won't eat busted eggs, for reasons which I don't understand. Seems to me that an egg's an egg, and after a guy chews it up and swallows it, it's all about the same. But Loper doesn't see it that way, which is fine with me because around here in co-op dog food country, an egg in any form is a gourmet delight. I cut my eyes toward Drover. He had his chin resting on his front paws and was drifting off to sleep. He hadn't heard the door slam, and I didn't see that it was my duty to tell him about it. I slipped away from the gas tank and loped up the hill. Had my taste buds all tuned up for a fried egg when I met Pete. He was going the same direction I was. Get lost, cat. Nobody called your name. He gave me a hateful look and hissed. Well, you know me. I try to live by the golden rule. Do unto others, but don't take trash off a cat. Pete was in the market for a whipping, seemed to me, so I obliged him. Figured I might as well get it over with. while it was fresh on both of our minds. I jumped him, rolled him, buried him, cuffed him a couple of times, generally gave him the stern warning about how cats are supposed to behave. After I'd settled the matter, I trotted up to the yard gate, ready for my egg. Sally Mae was standing there with her hands on her hips. I sat down and swept the ground with my tail and gave her a ginormous smile and set up my back legs for the beg position. I picked up a little begging trick some years ago. It was pretty tough to learn. I mean, it takes balance and coordination and considerable athletic ability. But it's paid off more than once. People seem to love it. They like to see a dog beg for what they're going to give away. Don't ask me why, but they do. Begging sort of goes along with against my grain. I mean, my ma was no ordinary mutt. She has papers and everything, and cowdog pride was sort of bred into me. But a guy has to make a living, and now and then he finds himself cutting a few corners. Well, I went up on my back legs. Sometimes I get off balance the first time or two, and sometimes I don't. This time it worked. I balanced myself on the two legs, and then to add to the special touch, I wagged my tail and moved my front paws at the same time. I don't believe the trick could have been done any better. It was a real smasher. And here is Hank on his back legs, and Sally Mae has the egg, and there's Pete. Let's see what happens. I was so busy with that trick that I didn't notice the sour look on Sally Mae's face. Hank, you are a bully. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for picking on that poor cat. Huh? Just for that, you are not going to get this egg. Here, Pete, come here, kitty, kitty, kitty. In a flash, Pete was there. I mean, when it comes to freeloading, he has amazing speed. He gave me a surly grin and went through the gate and started eating my egg. That really burned me up. Sally Mae gave Kitty a nice motherly smile, and then she turned a cold glare on me. And besides being a bully, you stink. How could she say that? I had just taken a bath, shampooed the whole 9 yards. I mean, a guy couldn't spend his whole life taking a bath. He's got to get out sometime. And when he does, it's just natural that he picks up a few smells of the earth, right? Besides that, I knew for a fact that Pete hadn't taken a bath in years. He hated water even more than Drover did. And he had dandruff too. You could see it all over him. Looked like he had been in a snowstorm. What kind of justice do you have when a dog that takes a bath every day, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, gets accused of stinking? And a rinky-dink cat, oh well. Pete was chewing my egg, and every now and then he'd turn his eyes toward me and give me that grin. Let me tell you, it took tremendous self-discipline for me to sit there and watch when all of my savage instincts were urging me to tear down the fence and pulverize that cat. Sally Mae went back into the house. I should have just left right there, just walked away and tried to forget the whole thing. But I didn't. Pete had laid down in front of the plate. I mean, he was too lazy to stand up and eat. He was purring and flicking the end of his tail back and forth and chewing every bite 23 times. I found myself growling, just couldn't help it. His head came up real slow. You hungry, Hanky? You want some of this egg? It melts in your mouth. No, thanks. I got better things to do. That was the truth. I did, but I stayed there. Pete shrugged his shoulder and continued eating. I watched, and before I knew it, I was drooling at the mouth. Pete got up, took a big stretch, and ambled over to where I was. He started rubbing up against the fence. He was so close I could have snatched him bald-headed, which I wanted to do very sincerely. And only there was a wire fence between us. I'm not sure I can eat all of this egg, he said. I'm stuffed. You want the rest of it, Hanky? I should have said no. I mean, a guy has his pride and everything. But my mouth went to watering at the thought of that egg and, oh, I might. Yeah, I'll take it. He grinned and ambled back to the plate. He picked up the egg in his mouth and brought it over to the fence and dropped it right in front of my nose. Well, I wasn't going to give him a chance to reconsider, so I made a grab for it and hit that fence with the end of my nose. But it was right there in front of me. I mean, I could smell it now. It was so close. It was giving off warm waves of delicious smell. I could even smell the butter it had been cooked in. I made another snap at it, hit the fence, and scabbed up my nose, made my eyes water. Then my vision cleared up. I saw Pete sitting there grinning. I was losing patience with that cat, and fast. Give me that egg. You said I could have it. Here. And he moved it a little closer. He got his nose under the egg and nudged it right under the fence. Well, I just knew I could get it now, so I made another lunge for it. Got a taste of it this time, but also wrecked my nose in the frazzling wire. I could see a piece of skin sticking up right out towards the end. Give me that egg. He licked his paws and purred. Okay, that settled it. I'll fool around and nickel and dime a problem for a while, but there comes a time when you've got to get down to brute strength. I backed up and took a run at it and hit that fence with all my speed and strength. I expected at least 2 posts to snap off the ground, and it wouldn't have surprised me if I had taken out the whole west side. Them posts turned out to be a little stouter than I thought. And you might say that the wire didn't break either. The collision shortened my backbone about 6 inches and also came close to ruining my nose. Give me that egg, cat, or I'll... Pete throwed a hump in his back and hissed, "Shh," right in my face. That was a mistake. No cat does that to Hank the cowdog and lives to tell about it. I started barking. I snarled. I snapped. I tore at that fence with my front paw. I clawed the ground. I mean, we had us a little riot going. And it was only a matter of time until Pete died a horrible death. And through it all, I could still smell that egg fried in butter. The back door flew open and Loper stormed out. He had shaving cream on one side of his face and the other side was red. Hank, shut up! You're gonna wake up the baby! I stepped back and stared at him. Me? What had I... If it hadn't been for that cat... I heard the baby squall inside the house. Sally Mae exploded out the door. Will you tell your dog to shut up? He just woke up the baby. Shut up, Hank. Shut up, Hank. Shut up, Hank. That's all everybody says to me. Not good morning, Hank, or thanks for saving the ranch from the silver monster bird, Hank. We really appreciate you risking your life while we were asleep. Nothing like that. No, sirree. Well, I can take a hint. I gave Pete one last glare just to let him know that his days on this ranch were numbered. And I stalked back to the gas tanks. I met Drover halfway down the hill. He'd just pried himself out of bed. What's going on, Hank? I heard some noise. I glared at him. You heard some noise. Well, glory be. It's kind of a shame you didn't come a little sooner when you might have given me a hand. You needed some kind of help? I glanced back up the hill. Sally Mae was still out in the yard talking to her kitty. Yeah, I needed some help. Go up there and bark at that cat. Just bark at the cat? That's all? That's all. Give it your best shot. Any special reason why? General principles, Drover. Well, okay, I'll see what I can do. He went skipping up the hill, and I went down to the gas tank and to watch the show. Maybe it was kind of mean, me sending Drover up there on a suicide mission when he was too dumb to know better. But look at it this way. I get blamed for everything around here, and most of the time I don't deserve it. I figured it wouldn't hurt Drover to get yelled at once or twice, and it might even do him some good. Getting yelled at is no fun, but it also builds character. Drover needed some character building. That was just one of the mainest problems, a weak character. So I watched the little runt padded up to the fence, plopped down, sat up on his back legs, and started yipping. Sally Mae put her hands on her hips, gave her head a shake, and said, Well, if that's not the cutest little thing. She pitched him my egg, and he caught it in the air and gulped it down. A minute later, he was down at the gas tank. I did what you said, Hank, and I won a free egg. Are you proud of me? I was so proud of him I thought about blackening both of his eyes, but I was too disgusted. I just went to sleep. That seems to be the only thing I can do around here without getting yelled at. Just sleep. Oh dear, Hank's in trouble again. Tomorrow we will read chapter 3, Stricken with eye crosserosis. Have a good night.